topics and opinions expressed in the following show are solely those of the hosts and their guests and not those of W4CY Radio, its employees, or affiliates. We make no recommendations or endorsements for radio show programs, services, or products mentioned on air or on our web. No liability, explicit or implied, shall be extended to W4CY Radio or its employees or affiliates. Any questions or comments should be directed to those show hosts. Thank you for choosing W4CY Radio.
Welcome to the Ask the Expert show on W4CY Radio and Talk4 TV, where we bring you educational information from top local experts in the fields of legal, health, financial, and home improvement. Now sit back and listen to experts in family law, association law, hearing loss, business brokers, home care, along with many other topics. Now here are your hosts, Steve-O and Sophia.
Hey, good. Okay, let me try that again. See, this is when you have a live show like this, you never know what's going to happen. But I would much rather do a live rather than a pre-recorded show. Good morning, Florida. Welcome to another Ask the Expert show, where we bring you the top experts in the field of legal, health, financial, and home improvement. We have roughly about 40 shows a month that we do. And I got to tell you, there's certain shows that you look so forward to. And our show this morning, it's the last Monday of the month at 9 o'clock Eastern time. And it's the way you can always catch this show. But is truly, I adore this expert. I probably shouldn't say that because we have so many experts, but let me just welcome you, our attorney in estate planning, Debbie Baker. Good morning, Attorney Baker.
You love calling me that. Good morning, Steve. And you probably shouldn't say that you adore me, but I love it, so it's okay.
It's so easy to do your opening, and it's, you and I, you've been doing this for several years now, and I love your heart. I think you are the perfect person to be in estate planning because it takes a special heart to be part of estate planning. And the way you explain things, someone wrote me about 3 weeks ago, wanting to know when your next show was, and I'm sure it was your cousin or somebody. No, I'm kidding. But they said they love the way you explain things, and that's how you are in your business, is the way you explain things. But before we get started, tell people about your firm and how you got started, because it's the greatest story on earth.
Well, okay.
It is.
Well, okay, maybe on
Don't get humble on me.
Okay. All right. Well, I was thinking that, the Lord might have a conversation with that. But anyway, the greatest story ever told. So my story is that, it's interesting to want to recreate it so it doesn't sound canned. I thought about law school a lot when I was younger in the world of actual birth certificates. And it was just never the right time. I always had a wonderful excuse. I've always been driven to be of service. I've always wanted to, like, I've said often that, if for anybody listening who is old enough to remember Froggy, who, if you could wave his magic wand, if you could wave your magic wand, Froggy, what would you do? I would, oh my gosh, that's such a long time ago. Anyway, I would wave the magic wand and, people wouldn't suffer anymore. They just wouldn't suffer anymore, which to say the least would make the world a whole, different place. So I've always wanted to see how I could make people's lives better. And I kind of fell into executive coaching, personal coaching, life coaching, whatever you want to do, with the idea of helping people have the lives they said they wanted. We're our own worst enemy. Anybody listening can think of a place they say something will never happen, or this always happens, or where they just assume the worst, where there's no need to. You could really live, hopefully, And I became a person of faith. My gosh, a long time ago, 40 years ago, something like that. And in the time of prayer, God told me to go to law school, which, people say, really? And I go, well, I heard a voice. I don't think it was my voice, but I heard somebody say, go to law school. And scared me no end. I couldn't imagine it. And then he said, get ready. So I didn't know what that meant, but I got ready and I went to law school. I started in 2011 and graduated in 2015. It was extraordinary. It was glorious. I'd never used the word before. I really don't think I ever used the word glorious before law school. And estate planning is a way, each piece of my estate planning practice is a way to allow families to have greater peace of mind. So today we're supposed to talk about probate. And even in that, there's a peace of mind in leaving a terrible situation, a death made worse by needing to talk to an attorney, easier by bringing a sense of lightness to it as much as possible. I say I don't want to do anything like, if we can't laugh, I don't want to do it. And even in probate, there's times for not guffaws, but laughter like, can you believe how silly this is? Can you believe how difficult people are? Can you believe it's taking this long? And just get it. So the practice is all designed to be of service. I'm licensed in Florida. I run a concierge practice, so I don't know exactly how I'd work if somebody called me Steve, who lives next door to you, and Sophie on the beach. But I figure it out. I have family down there, so it's always a great reason to come
Same
travel.
laws, right? Same laws.
Huh?
Same laws. Where no matter
same
where.
laws, yeah. But I do run a concierge practice, so the idea is people are much more comfortable about talking about whether it's doing an estate plan or probate or whatever in their own home. I would have run a concierge practice anyway, gone to people because my house was not built for a legal practice. But I've learned that people really are more comfortable talking about things that can be difficult when they're in their own surroundings. So that's what I do. I've been doing it. Go ahead.
I've been wanting to ask you this. Was it harder? I want to say later in life, but you weren't like you were old, but was it harder going back to school?
No, I mean, was it hard? No, I don't think so. I didn't experience it that way. And I was going because it was a walk of faith. So it's like anything anybody listening has ever decided to do that they really want to do. Brian Tracy used to teach that we do the things we value most. So when people, excuse me, people say they don't have time to exercise, if they looked at their lives, they would find what a former partner of mine said was sitting comatose at the kitchen table with a cup of coffee and a cigarette for 40 minutes. But he was adamant that he had no time to exercise. So anything we decide to do, it's not that it's easy, but it's not that it's hard, like, oh my gosh, how awful is this? It was disciplined. It was rigorous. I never found it hard. I found it disheartening at times because I wasn't grasping it, but I didn't find it hard. I never found it hard. It was a joy. It was a real joy.
One of the things you always tell us that probate is very expensive to do, and your whole thing is your practice is keeping your clients out of probate. What exactly is probate, and why is it that so many people dread it?
Well, they dread it for good reason.
Probate, it's costly.
Because it's costly. It tears apart families, oftentimes, too oftentimes. So probate is what my first mentor said is the way that you get to pay government and attorneys money that you didn't have to pay them if you'd done it right to begin with. But probate is where somebody passes and they have made no provisions for the distribution of their assets. They don't have a will. They don't have beneficiary designations on their bank accounts or their savings accounts or their IRAs or their investments or anything. And so the state, whatever state you're in, the state, whether it's the Commonwealth of Massachusetts or Virginia or the state of Florida, they have a plan for you. And it's called intestacy, which means without a will. and it's called probate, and it's very expensive. Oh, in Tampa, I guess, if you were going to do a simple estate plan, will, power of attorney, healthcare surrogate, and that for an individual might run you, between, like, say, $1,500 and $3,000. It depends upon the attorney. There are no fixed fees, whatever. Probate in a similar situation would probably start at $3,000 and go up, depending upon what those assets were. Assets meaning a house and not just like the stuff in your office per se, but bank accounts, savings accounts, checking accounts, that kind of thing. So probate is a process whereby the court gets to decide who gets your assets. So right now I have a client. Well, I had a client, but anyway, I have a client who wants her stepchildren and their descendants and her brother and his descendants completely excluded from getting anything that she has. If she dies without a will, specifically disinheriting those people, her brother, because it's blood, and she dies without a will, her brother and his descendants are the ones who will get her estate, because that's the law. That's the law. So probate is expensive. It can be avoided. It's emotionally draining. It separates families. I just got off the phone with a client who's leery that her sister will raise a ruckus about the probate, even though what her mother wanted is straightforward in the will. So, yeah, government gets paid and attorneys get paid because people didn't plan.
So it's probate again. It's one of the areas that you cover. What other areas? There's so many different areas in estate planning. What other areas do you cover?
Well, I do wills and trusts. So, there are people who just they don't own anything, or whatever they own is already designated to go to somebody. So then they need a will. A will is the document that really picks up when you die, if there's anything that you haven't already taken care of. They need a power of attorney so people can make financial decisions for them, sell a house, buy a house, sell a business while they're alive. Do Medicaid planning. Power of attorney will give somebody the right to do that if you need to apply for government benefits, which isn't about being old or older. It's about disabilities and do you have a special need, that kind of thing. I do trusts, which is for people who have more assets or want to distribute their estate to children or grandchildren, not all at once, but over time. A will can't do that. So estate planning, wills, trust, probate, and I'm doing elder law, which is I've gained a great respect for practitioners who do elder law, which is if you've got somebody who needs to be has dementia, or maybe not, maybe just disabled, and needs either skilled nursing or nursing home or assisted living, people think they have to get rid of everything in order to apply to gain government benefits that are available to them. And that's not true. So families can protect a good bit of the assets and get the government benefits and get their loved ones well taken care of with proper planning. So estate planning, wills, trust, probate, and elder law are the places where I serve.
When it comes to a power of attorney, does a person choose an attorney or someone they trust in the family?
That's a great question. So it doesn't have to be a family member. It can be a really good friend. Can be an attorney. For the first two categories, family member or good friend, you really need to trust them implicitly. In Florida anyway, those powers go into effect as soon as you sign them. We generally, unless specifically asked not to, allow an agent, they're called, to have the right to change a beneficiary or refuse a right of survivorship based upon somebody's request. So you get disabled and you want to, you haven't made Sophia the beneficiary on an account, and it's occurred to you that you ought to. And you've made her the power of attorney. She can go do that for you if you can't do it yourself. In Florida, the risk is that agent can really clean you out as soon as they get the power. So, but a friend or family member, and people do pick
Let me
attorneys.
ask you, do people's feelings get hurt when a power of attorney is chosen?
Oh, sure. People feeling get hurt when powers of attorney are chosen, or personal representatives are chosen, or healthcare surrogates. Yeah. And I had one client, it took her 8 months to finally choose because she was absolutely adamant about not offending her children. And finally, her children had to tell her, listen, we promised to talk to each other, but you have to get this done. So yes, clients are worried about offending people. Certainly people get offended. And people sometimes choose professional fiduciaries, like somebody like me or whatever, to do it because, what did somebody tell me about it? An attorney's not going to risk their reputation,
right,
or their standing by violating the terms of the spirit of the power of attorney, which was not for me to go clean out your bank account, but was me to be fiducially responsible to be sure that you were taken care of. So, because the document probably says I could be held harmless, and I'm not I can't be blamed unless somebody can prove I was irresponsible. But an attorney's not going to risk their reputation for doing that. The challenge with hiring a professional, which I've recommended in a couple of times, is that person has to be paid. I mean, if I'm going to go to your bank to change your beneficiary to Sophia, let's say I have your power of attorney, and Sophia is busy taking care of you, so I'm going to go do it, then an attorney is going to charge for that time reasonably. I mean, it's not an unreasonable thing for them to do. So, and I have people who've chosen third parties to represent them.
We're in a much older demographic here, especially here in South Florida, and many people come here to retire. What are the first steps someone should take care of after a loved one passes away here in Florida?
Well, I say if you've done it right, the first step is to grieve. First step,
really?
probably the first 100 steps. And if your loved one did have a plan and you know how to find the attorney, maybe call the attorney to be reassured that right now all you have to do is grieve. Call me in 60 or 90 days and we can take care of it. There is nothing, if a plan's in place, there's nothing urgent to be done. Are there exceptions? Of course. But generally speaking, there's nothing urgent that has to be done other than you're taking a chance to take a breath, grieve, get through the next day and the next day and the next day. And then when you can see some breathing room, call somebody and review whatever you might have to do.
What's the difference between, we were talking about probate, what's the difference between probate and estate planning?
Well, if an estate plan is done well, you don't need probate. Probate's the result of when an estate plan has not been done at all or done as completely as it might have, or happens sometimes. So you and Sophia have a house and you own it together, and you buy another house and you forget to title it as joint tenants with rights of survivorship because nobody told you. And then one of you passes, and that person's family owns that half of the house. So you have to go through probate. So whoever is surviving gets to own the whole house. And people don't think to ask. People don't, if they have an attorney, they don't call their attorney and say, listen, we're going to buy a rental property. How do we title this? What's the best way? And have a conversation. So probate's the result of not having a complete estate plan in place.
Do you ever, we've been seeing these big fires in California and people losing everything and people losing their lives even. And it's since our show has started, I've done a lot of rethinking, but remember when I was hearing about the fires and young people passing. I mean, that probably never expected to lose their life so early. And I just wonder, you hope that they took care of their planning, because that's what we do here on the show is we're trying to get people not to wait, to get it done now, and to use a professional like you, Debbie. But it's amazing when there's things across the country that involves people's lives. I always think about our show here.
Yeah. Well, you've heard me say more than once, if you've got somebody in your family who's 1 second over 18, at that second, that person needs their own plan. I mean, it's really interesting. I was thinking about it recently. The fires have gotten a lot of very, very legitimate attention. Very, very legitimate attention.
Yes.
It seems that all the families who suffered through Helene in Western North Carolina and Eastern Tennessee don't get nearly the attention, haven't gotten nearly the attention. I'm assuming because it's like it hasn't been as visible, I mean, you can show the fires day after day after day after day after day after day, sadly. The results of mudslides and mountain slides, you can't. But I would imagine there will be a lot of people, a lot of families who go through additional trauma because people either didn't have a plan, didn't take it with them if they evacuated, just forgot it, didn't have it stored on the cloud, didn't have it, their attorneys didn't have it, who knows. I would guess, because it's happened to me, that there will be a number of people in California, probably in North Carolina and Kentucky, who will do their plans now as a result of my family's not, I mean, we had to go through this. My family's not going to go through this. I'm not going to put my family through this. I mean, I might die, but I'm not going to leave them unprepared for it. Yeah, I mean, and people reasonably say, why would an 18-year-old need a will? And an 18-year-old need a will because 18-year-olds, there were probably very young adults who died or got severely injured in those fires or in the mudslides and everything on the East Coast. And without some kind of document allowing people easily to speak for you, it's just harder. And probate costs multiples and multiples of what an estate plan would cost. But it's like getting out of your own way. It's getting out of your way and realizing even at 18 that this could happen to me and I'm going to do something about it. Or having a parent say you're going to do it, pay for it, and you just go sign documents. But yeah.
Debbie, I always find myself praising you because I've been doing this for 15 years and I'm a believer like you are. And I think it's just so important that when you have somebody to handle your estate planning, it's someone who is understanding, somebody who really cares and understands what you're going through. And that's why, I mean, I don't endorse very many experts, even though there are experts, but you are one attorney who I totally endorse. And that's why we widened the show to all of Florida, because I wanted everybody to hear your message. We've been running your phone number and how to reach you for those of you watching on YouTube, but there are so many listening on iHeart and on radio. Tell people how they can reach you.
Yeah, sure. So my phone number is 813-586-1332, 813-586-1332. And my email address is Deb Baker, got two B's in the middle, at London, like the city, londonbakerlaw.com. Pretty good. I'd say 99%. I return my phone calls within one business day. That gives you permission to call me on the second business day and say, how come you didn't call me? You've got tacit consent. And I'll talk to anybody in Florida or not, because for outside Florida, I can give you counsel on some questions you might ask, even though I can't practice law there, but general questions that you might ask an attorney when you go find them. You want to work with an attorney, you get to know, like, and trust, who hopefully can make you laugh in the direst of times, if it's at all appropriate. And who cares? I mean, who cares?
And you get to meet your cat.
And they get to meet my cat if we do only in Zoom meetings. Yeah, he doesn't travel.
Debbie, thank you so much. You'll be back again with us next month. And we're probably going to be replaying some of your shows next month, which I haven't even told you about. But we so appreciate you. And we're going to go to break, and we come back. We've got our next expert. Thank you, Debbie.
Thanks, Rebel. Be well.
Thanks for tuning in today to the Ask the Expert show on W4CY Radio and Talk4 TV. Tune in next week and every week to hear more from our experts on personal injury, insurance, air condition repairs, estate planning, Medicare, and many other topics in the areas of legal, health, financial, and home improvement. See you next week.